Bismillahir-Rahman-Rahim. The status of Hadeeth in Islam.
Through the Quranic and historical perspective.
How were Ahadith compiled? How did these Ahadith reach us? What is their status in Deen?
What is the mutual relationship of the Quran and Ahadith?
Ghulam Ahmad Parwez. Muhammad Aslam Jairajpuri. 9. The Quran. In the mirror of narratives. The entirety of Deen is based on conviction.
This is the very foundation on which its entire structure is raised, with the surety that what we consider Deen is without doubt from Allah. If even a small crack arises in this foundation, the
whole edifice of Deen will come tumbling down. In this there is no question of a small or big issue. For example,
it is our Iman that Allah sent His revelations to Moses and Jesus, and from the point of view of its real basis and composition, they were given the very same Deen which is in the Quran.
Today both Jews and Christians claim that they have the Torah and the Bible, but despite this we do not accept these books as Deen. Its reason is clear, and that is because in these books there have been modifications and changes. We cannot truly say today that whatever is in them is the same that was revealed to the messengers. It could be said that there will be some matters in them which have not been subject to change, and these matters should be accepted as Deen.
It is correct that there will be such matters in these books, but as has been noted before, if there is the slightest doubt in any matter relating to Deen, then it can no longer remain as Deen.
This is why both the Torah and the Bible cannot be accepted as books of Deen. After this, our Imam about the Quran is that it is word for word and letter for letter from the beginning of the word Alhamd to the last word Wan Nas, exactly the same which Allah revealed to Rasulullah and which Rasulullah passed to the Ummah. Now think that if even the slightest suspicion arises in anyone's heart, then for him the Quran cannot be the book of Deen. Its status will become the same as that of the Bible and Torah. We have seen that the most effective trick and successful technique to create a new madhab religion, to replace the Deen given by Allah, is to devise false ahadith and to attribute these to Rasulullah. As such, this was done, and done with great impunity and blatant audacity. But the greatest objection against ahadith is that if this was Deen, then why did Rasulullah not make a compilation of it and give it to the Ummah just like the Quran? And like the Quran, why were these not learned by heart and preserved?
If the Quran was the core text and ahadith were its shara,
exposition, and if the Quran was a summary and ahadith its explanation, and if the Quran was such a book that it could even be cancelled through ahadith, and this way ahadith was the deciding factor, then, more than the Quran, there was a greater need to have preserved ahadith, and to have passed these on to the Ummah. This was such a huge objection that it was not easy to avoid it. The solution which they contrived to this dilemma was that the idea should be spread about the Quran that Rasulullah had not left the Quran itself in a compiled shape for the Ummah either.
This was also collected and compiled by those who followed.
And the way in which you see differences in narrations regarding ahadith, in the same way.
Allah forbid. Regarding the Quran, there were many differences present in the time of the Sahaba and their followers.
The way narratives are single news which have been narrated by one Sahabi, similarly the verses of the Quran were collected by one or two persons, etc. All this is a pack of lies. Therefore, to achieve this aim they invented ahadith and publicized them. These narratives are still present in the compilations of ahadith today. 9.1 Kitab al-Masahif. In this regard, the famous book by Hafiz Abu Bakr Abdullah ibn Abi Dawud Sulaiman bin Ashat Subastani titled Kitab al-Masahif has special significance because all the narrations regarding the Quran have been compiled in it. These narrations are mostly to be found dispersed in Sahih Sitta and other authentic books of narrations. This book is authored by Abu Bakr Abdullah ibn Abi Dawud, whose year of birth is 230 A.H.
and year of demise is 316
H.
He was the son of a famous Imam of Ahadith, Abu Dawud Sulaiman ibn Ash'at Sabastani,
whose book Kitab-e-Sunan is one of the 6 famous books, Sahih Sitta. His book Al-Masahif is considered authentic by the scholars of Ahadith. As a result, most of the books written by later authors contain references to this book. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi called it Sikatan Kabiratan Mamun, great dependable work. In Baghdad he is remembered as Imam al-Iraq and was highly respected by both the government and the people. In the Mosque of Baghdad the Sultan of the time had a special dais installed for him where he would sit and narrate ahadith. The scholars of Iraq wrote ahadith quoted by him and learned from him, but no one could reach his status. After this brief introduction to the author, we will introduce you to selected quotes from this Kitab al-Masahif. So keep listening and banging your head in despair. 9.2 The Quran was compiled by Hazrat Abu Bakr, not Rasul-ullah. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, with his own authority, copies from Zayd bin Sabit that the year the inhabitants of Yamama were killed, Abu Bakr sent a man to summon me and Hazrat Umar was also present there. Abu Bakr said that he, Umar, came to me and said that many of the reciters, Qari,
of the Quran have been killed.
I fear that if there are killings in another incident, in this way the Quran may be lost. My suggestion is to compile the Quran. I asked Umar, how can you do the work that Rasul-ullah did not do? Umar said, by Allah, this is a very good work, and kept insisting till I agreed to that which Allah had opened his heart, and my heart was also open to it, and my opinion became the same as his.
Abu Bakr said to me, you are a young and intelligent man and have been writing revelations for Rasul-ullah.
Since we do not consider you to be Mathim, therefore you should write the Quran down. Zayd bin Sabit said, by Allah, had they asked me to move a mountain from its position to another place, that would not have been more difficult for me than this task. He said to both of them, how can you do the work that Rasul-ullah did not do? Abu Bakr and Umar said, by Allah, this is definitely a good work, and both continued to insist till the task for which their hearts were opened, my heart also opened to it, and my opinion became the same as theirs. Therefore, for the purpose of writing, I started collecting pieces of paper, leaves of date palms, pieces of stones, and started searching the memories of people. Hafaz. Till I came to a verse that I used to hear Rasul-ullah read but could not find.
It was, Laqad Ja'akum Rasulun min Anfusikum. 9. 128.
I searched for it.
Eventually I found it with Qasim bin Sabit and I wrote it in its surah. 9.3 Why was the Quran compiled during the era of Abu Bakr?
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, with his authority referring
to Urwa ibn Zubair, says that when a lot of Qaris were killed, Abu Bakr feared that in this way the Quran will be lost.
Ultimately he told Umar and Zayd ibn Sabit to sit by the door of the mosque, and whoever presented 2 witnesses about anything about the Book of Allah, to write this in the Quran. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, with his authority, copies from Abd Khair, saying that I heard Hazrat Ali saying that the biggest reward, Sawab, regarding Masahif will go to Abu Bakr. May Allah have mercy on Abu Bakr. He was the first person who encased the Quran within the folds of 2 covers. 9.4 The Quran was compiled by Abu Bakr
himself and was reviewed by Hazrat Sa'id. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, with his authority, copies from Salim and Khaja, saying that though Abu Bakr had compiled the Quran, Zayd bin Sabit refused to accept it, till Abu Bakr requested the help of Hazrat Umar to convince Zayd bin Sabit.
So Umar managed to get his agreement and a review was done. These books remained with Hazrat Abu Bakr till his death. After this these remained in the custody of Hazrat Umar till his death. Then these remained in the custody of Hafsa, wife of Rasul-ullah.
When Usman asked for these, Hafsa refused to hand them over till she got a promise from him that he would return them to her and sent them on this basis.
So Hazrat Usman wrote these into Masahif and returned the original books to Hafsa, and they remained with her till Marwan in his time took them and burnt them. You can see regarding this extremely important matter how one statement is contradicting the other. But so far it has been said that the Quran was not given in a compiled form by Rasul-ullah, but was compiled during the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr Sadiq.
Now let us move a step further. 9.5 Compilation of the Quran was not done by Abu Bakr but was started by Umar and completed by Usman.
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his authority referring from Yahya bin Abdur Rahman bin Hatib says that Umar ibn al-Khattab resolved to compile the Quran. In this regard he gave a sermon to the people and asked that whoever has in his possession any part of the Quran from Rasul-ullah, should bring it to him. People had written the Quran on paper, wooden boards and the bark of date palms. And Hazrat Umar accepted nothing from anyone till 2 witnesses gave evidence. During this time Umar was martyred and Usman ibn Affan stood up and told the people that whoever had any part of the Quran should bring it to him. He too never accepted anything until 2 witnesses did not give their evidence. In the meantime Qasima ibn Sabit came and said that I see that you have left out writing 2 verses. It was asked which are those 2 verses.
He replied that I myself received these 2 verses from Rasul-ullah.
Laqad jaakum rasulan min anfusikum azizun alayhi ma antum alaykum bil mu'minin raufur rahim. At this Hazrat Usman said that I testify that both of these verses are from Allah. Then Usman asked Qasima, tell us where should we place these 2 verses. Qasima replied that these should be placed after whichever surah of the Quran was last revealed, and end this surah with these verses. As a result these 2 verses were incorporated at the end of Surah Tawbah. 9.6 Eaten by a goat. These 2 verses were found, however 2 verses were lost in such a way that they can never be found till the day of resurrection. In Sunan ibn Majah, which is an authentic book of Sahih Sittah, the following narrative is found which is attributed to Hazrat Aisha. She says, a verse regarding Rajam, the stoning of an adulterer, and a verse regarding Razarat-e-Kaaba were written on a piece of paper that was put under my wooden bed. When Rasul-ullah died we were busy dealing with this tragedy. In the meantime a pet goat came in and ate this paper. And those verses were lost. Therefore it was decided after this that these verses were not to be included in the Quran but action should be taken on them according to their content. That which is said among Muslims that the punishment of a fornicating married person is stoning is based on this very lost verse. In the present Quran the punishment of a fornicator is 100 lashes. Anyhow the story of the compilation of the Quran, according to the narratives, has reached this stage where it is said that it was neither compiled by Rasul-ullah, nor was it compiled during the reign of Hazrat Abu Bakr Sadiq. Its compilation was started by Hazrat Umar and he too left it incomplete and was martyred. Now let us proceed. 9.7 Differences during the era of Usman. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his authority. Copies from Yazid bin Muawiyah, saying that I was sitting within a gathering in the mosque during the reign of Walid bin Akbar, where the renowned Sahabi, Hazrat Huzaifa, was also present. At that time no one was there to stop people from entering the mosque nor were there any policemen. Suddenly an announcer proclaimed loudly that whoever recites the Quran on the lines of Abu Musa Ashri should approach this corner which is near Abwab Kunda. And the one who recites the Quran on the pattern of Abdullah bin Mas'ud should come to this other corner which is towards the house of Abdullah. And there a difference has arisen between 2 persons about a verse of Surah Baqarah. One recited one ma wal hajj wal amrit al bayt, while the second recited one ma wal hajj wal amrit ullah. Hazrat Huzaifa became angry and his eyes turned red, and he at once gathered his robes under his arms and stood up in the very mosque. This incident occurred during the era of Hazrat Usman. And he said that either the caliph should come to me or I will go to him, so that I may tell him about this, because the Ummahs before you did the same. Then he moved forward and sat down and said that Allah sent Rasulullah as a messenger, and he with the help of the Mu'mineen fought against the non-believers, till the time that the deen of Allah overwhelmed all. Then Allah took Rasulullah away, and the people started running in all directions like unbridled horses.
Then Allah made Umar the caliph, and he entered into the heart of Islam.
And he wished to establish balance in the system. Then Allah took him away too, and the people once again started running in all directions like wild horses. After this Allah made Usman the caliph. And I swear by Allah, that the time is near when people will indulge in that kind of adventure with Islam which will exceed all those previous ones of the past. 9.8 Abdullah bin Mas'ud's displeasure over the selection of Zayd bin Sabit. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, copying with his authority from Ibrahim Naqi,
notes that when Hazrat Usman ordered the tearing up of all papers apart from his own compilation of the Quran,
Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, "O people, hide your Qurans, because whoever hides something will bring it with him on the day of resurrection.
And the best thing to hide is the Quran, which anyone among you will bring along on the day of resurrection."
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his own authority copies from Ubaydullah bin Abdullah Utbah that Abdullah bin Mas'ud disliked the writing of the Quran by Zayd ibn Sabit and said, "O Jamaat of Muslims, I am being kept from the writing of the Quran, and its responsibility has been given to such a person who, by Allah, when I accepted Islam, he was still in his Kafir father's loins. I.e. was not yet born." Did you notice what is being quoted about the reaction of the Sahaba over the efforts to compile the Quran? Imam Ibn Abi Dawud also copies with his own authority from Zaban Jaysh that Abdullah bin Mas'ud said that, "I have read more than 70 surahs,
chapters,
from the lips of Rasulullah while Zayd bin Sabit was still just a child with only 2 locks of hair waving about on his head." He also copies from Shafiq that Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, "Man yaklal yati bemagal yam al-qiyamah." On whose Qirat recitation does Hazrat Usman order me to recite the Quran?
I have personally recited more than 70 surahs from Rasulullah, and the companions of the Messenger know that I am the most knowledgeable among them about the Book of Allah.
And if I had known that there was someone who knows the Book of Allah more than me, I would even have traveled to go to him. 9.9 Compilation of the Quran during the era of Hazrat Usman.
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, after copying this narration by Ibn Shihab Zeri,
already mentioned under number 1, also copies via an attribution by Ibn Shihab Zeri of Uns ibn Malik Ansari, that in the battle for Azerbaijan and Armenia the inhabitants of Syria and Iraq gathered and recited the Quran to each other. A big difference emerged, and it very nearly resulted in a conflict between them. When Huzaifa ibn al-Yaman observed these differences of theirs about the Quran, he went straight to Hazrat Usman and said that the people are differing greatly about the Quran.
So much so that by Allah, I am becoming worried that they may not become entangled in those differences in which the Jews and Christians are already embroiled.
Hearing this, Hazrat Usman became very anxious, and he sent couriers to Hazrat Hafsa and recovered the manuscript, which was compiled by Zayd bin Sabit on the order of Hazrat Abu Bakr, and had many copies of it written, and sent these to all corners of the country. 9.10 Marwan burnt the copies prepared by Hazrat Hafsa. When Marwan became the emir of Medina, he sent his men to Hazrat Hafsa to get the documents so that he could burn them. His concern was that the writers should not begin differing with each other, but Hazrat Hafsa refused his request. Ibn Shihab says that I was told by Salim bin Abdullah that when Hazrat Hafsa died, Marwan sent a stern message to Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar to send those documents to him. Therefore, the moment the people returned from the funeral of Hazrat Hafsa, Abdullah ibn Umar sent all those scripts to Marwan. Marwan burnt them one by one from fear that there may be something in them which could be against those documents which were written by Hazrat Usman. 9.11 How was the Quran compiled during the
era of Hazrat Usman?
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud writes with his authenticity from Ayub, who in turn copies from Abu Kalab, that during the time of Hazrat Usman a teacher used to teach according to the qira'at of some individual, while another teacher used to teach according to the qira'at of another individual. Children used to read the Quran and differ with each other about it to such an extent that these differences spread to the teachers, and then people started declaring takfir based on differences in
qira'at.
This reached Hazrat Usman's ears, and so he gave a sermon and said, "You people differ in the Quran even when I am around and accuse each other. The mistakes and differences of the people who live in other cities and are far away from me are even greater. O people of Muhammad! Be united and write a united Imam. Kitab Allah."
For the people.
Abu Kalaba says that I was told by Malik bin Uns, the grandfather of Imam Malik bin Uns, that he was among those people who made him write the Quran. There used to be differences frequently on some verse or other, and some individual would come to mind who had learnt this verse directly from Rasulullah.
Sometimes that person would not be present or was to be found in some village.
So the verses before and after would be written down, and a space would be left for that verse, till that individual could come himself or could be summoned. And then after asking him, that verse would be written down. Once he was free from writing the book, then Hazrat Usman wrote to all the towns and cities that I have performed such and such a deed, and whatever was with me I have erased it. Therefore whatever remains with you against the Quran, you should discard it too.
Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his authority copies.
From Masab ibn Sa'd, saying that Hazrat Usman gave a sermon to the people telling them that only 13 years have passed since Rasulullah separated from you, but you have started doubting the Quran. You say that this is the qira'at of Abi bin Ka'b, and that is the qira'at of Abdullah bin Masud, and I swear by Allah, you do not read your qira'at correctly. I therefore make it incumbent upon all of you that whoever has any part of the Book of Allah should bring it to me. As such, someone would bring a piece of paper while another would bring a piece of leather on which the Quran was written, till in this way a lot of material was gathered. Then Hazrat Usman came inside and calling each individual in turn and making them swear by Allah would ask,
"Did you hear this directly from Rasulullah? Did Rasulullah get you to write this stuff down?" That individual would agree.
When Hazrat Usman was finished, he asked the people, "Who is the best calligrapher among you?"
The people replied, "Rasulullah's calligrapher, Zayd bin Sabit."
Then he asked, "Who among you is the greatest expert in Arabic grammar?" The people replied, "Sa'id bin al-Awaz."
So Hazrat Usman said, "That is fine." Sa'id would dictate and Zayd would write it down.
As such, Zayd ibn Sabit wrote a Quran and wrote many Qurans, and Hazrat Usman distributed these Qurans among the people.
Abu Kalaba says that I heard some people of Muhammad saying that Usman did a very good deed. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, via another authority, copies from Masab ibn Sa'd himself, saying that when Hazrat Usman heard the qira'at of Abi
ibn Ka'b, Abdullah ibn Masud, and Maz
ibn Jabal,
He gave a sermon to the people and stated that 15 years have passed since the demise of your messenger and you have started to differ about the Quran. I make it incumbent on each one of you that whoever has anything of the Quran with him, whoever has heard it himself from Rasulullah, he should bring it to me. Therefore people began to bring whatever material had the Quran written on it, including pieces of wood, bits of bone and date coverings. Whichever individual brought it, Hazrat Usman would ask him if he had all this from Rasulullah. Then he asked the people, who is the most articulate and scholarly person among you? People named Sa'id bin al-Awaz. Then he asked, who has the best writing skills?
The people took the name of Zaid bin Sabit.
He said, fine, Zaid should write and Sa'id should dictate. In this way many Qurans were written and then were distributed in various cities.
Mas'ab bin Sa'd says that I saw no one who objected to this act of Usman.
Imam bin Abi Dawud, with his own authority, copies from Muhammad ibn Abi, that people would read the Quran and the situation had reached this stage, that one man would tell another that by whatever you are reciting you have become a kafir. This was related to Usman bin Affan and he became very heavy-hearted. He collected 12 men from the Quraysh and the Ansar, among whom were Abi bin Ka'b and Zaid bin Sabit. He gathered them all in the courtyard of the house of Hazrat Umar. The Quran used to stay in this house and Hazrat Usman also used to come and go to meet people there. Muhammad bin Abi says that I was told by Qasr ibn Afla, who was one of the writers of the Quran, that there used to be frequent differences among these 12 men and they would defer the verse under contention. Muhammad says that I asked Qasr, why was it that you people used to defer these?
He replied that I do not know this. Muhammad says that in this regard I have developed a presumption which you people should not consider as definite. However, I suspect that when there was some difference among them about a verse they would defer it in the hope that some individual would come along who may have been with Rasulullah during the last days of his life, so that we may then write this verse according to his view. 9.12 The sequence of the Quran was arranged by Hazrat Usman. Imam ibn Abi Dawud, with his own authority, copies from Ibn Abbas, saying that I asked Hazrat Usman, why did you keep Surah Anfal? Chapter 8. That is in Masani, with Surah Barat. Chapter 9. Though that it is from Ma'in. And then you placed them both in Saba Tawal. Why did you do so? Usman replied that different verses used to be revealed to Rasulullah during different periods. When a revelation used to be revealed to him, he would call a writer and tell him to write it in such and such a surah in which such and such has been mentioned. Surah Anfal is among those surahs which were revealed at the beginning of the time in Medina, while Surah Barat was revealed right at the end, but both have the same subject. The thought occurred to me that Surah Barat is simply a part of Surah Anfal. Rasulullah passed away and he did not tell us whether it was really a part of this or not. For this reason I wrote them one after another but did not write the line, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, and put them both in Saba Tawal. Up until now, it has been said that the Quran was compiled during the era of Hazrat Usman. But let us hear what kind of Quran this was. 9.13 Mistakes lingered in the Quran. Imam ibn Abi Dawud with his authority quotes from Abdullah bin Abdullah bin Amir Kashi that when Hazrat Usman was done with the task of the writing down of the Quran, he looked at it and said that you people have done a good job and done it very well, but I can see some mistakes in it which the Arab people should correct themselves through their own speeches. So you can see that the Quran was compiled during the era of Hazrat Usman, however mistakes remained in it. These mistakes were not corrected by Hazrat Usman but were left as such with the expectation that the Arabs would correct these themselves with their own tongue. Now let us move forward. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his own authority quotes from Akram Attai saying that when the Musahif script of the Quran
was brought to Hazrat Usman, he saw some errors in it. At this he commented that had the person dictating this been from the Banu Huzay
tribe
and the writer from the Banu Saqif
tribe,
these errors would not have occurred. It is quoted from Sa'id ibn Jabbar that he, Hazrat Usman, said that 4 words are wrong in the Quran. As Sab'an 5:69.
Opening parenthesis.
B. Wal Muchi mean 4:162. B. Fa Asadaka war akan minas salihin 63:10. And IV. In Haza Inas Sahiran 20:63. Zubair Abu Khalid says that I asked Aban bin Usman how did the verse 4:162 become Ayla and Rafa was put at the end and is put on al-Makim. Aban replied that this is the mistake of the calligrapher. The end part had been written and he had asked what should I write after this. The person dictating said write down al-Muchaminas Salata, and whatever he was told he wrote down.
Parwez says that I asked Hazrat Aisha about the mistakes in the Quran.
The question was about in Hazal Sahiranul Muchaminas Salat wal Mutunas Zakata, and Walazina Hadu wa Saibun. She said, my nephew, this is the job of the scriptwriters. They made a mistake while writing. 9.14 The Musahifs scripts, which were written down at Hazrat Usman's order, were different from all the scripts of Medina. Khalid ibn Iyaz bin Saka ibn Abi al-Jaham narrates that he read the Musahif of Usman bin Affan and he found his Musahif to be different in 12 places from the Musahifs of the inhabitants of Medina. 9.15 The Musahifs written for various cities contained mutual differences. After this, Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his authority has copied in a separate chapter all those differences which were present in these Musahifs which were written for various cities. This chapter is quite long and this is why we are not quoting these differences here. This makes it clear that the various copies of Musahifs which Hazrat Usman had ordered to be written for various cities, whose very purpose was that the differences among Musahifs should be finished forever. Even that aim could not be fulfilled, and despite all these efforts there remained many differences in the Musahifs of various sites. 9.16 Hajjaj bin Yusuf made alterations on 11 occasions in the Musahif of Hazrat Usman. Imam Ibn Abi Dawud with his authority has copied from Av ibn Abi Jamila, pages 49 and 117, saying that during his reign Hajjaj ibn Yusuf Sakufi made changes at 11 places in the Musahif of Hazrat Usman. This detail is also noted in this book. The Quran which the Ummah has today is the very one that Hajjaj had compiled. It is also noted in Kitab al-Masahif, with the authority of narratives, that when Hazrat Usman had the Quran compiled, different great Sahaba had their own compilations in which countless verses were different from the Musahif of Hazrat Usman. Be aware that Kitab al-Masahif was published with great interest by an author, Arthur Jeffrey, and along with that, as an additional part from him, he included all those verses which were with the various Sahaba and which were different from the verses noted in the Musahif of Hazrat Usman. But according to the details which Jeffrey has noted down about these scripts, the number of verses with differences is as follows. 1. Hazrat ibn Masud, 1322. 2. Hazrat Abi bin Ka'b, 952. 3. Hazrat Ali, 89. 4. Hazrat ibn Abbas, 186. 5. Hazrat Abu Musa, 4. 6. Hazrat Hafsa, 10. 7. Hazrat Uns bin Malik, 24. 8. Hazrat Umar, 28. 9. Hazrat Zaid bin Sabit, 10. 10. Hazrat Ibn Zubair.
34.
11. Hazrat Umro ibn Ulrs. Number not known.
12.
Hazrat Aisha. 13.
13. Hazrat Salim. 2. 14. Hazrat Salma.
14. 15.
Hazrat Ubayd ibn Omar.
18.
These musahif are attributed to the Sahaba.
The numbers of those musahif which are attributed to the followers and those musahif which are anonymous, i.e., attributed to unknown owners, are in addition to these. 9.17 differences in the Quran were not because of recitation and pronunciation. The differences in various scripts of the era of the Sahaba and their followers were not because of recitation and of pronunciation or accent, but because there were many verses and words which were different from each other. As for the differences in pronunciation or accent, this was not because one individual pronounces a word in a certain way and another pronounces it in a different way. But for this it is necessary that both individuals should have different tribes and nations. Within one family or one place there can definitely be no difference in the pronunciation of words. But these differences were such that within a tribe and within a family and among people from the same area, there were great differences in the way people recited the Quran. The proof of this can be seen in a narrative attributed to Hazrat Umar. Apart from Kitab al-Masahif, this narration is also available in Sahih Bukhari. Volume 3, page 52. The word-for-word translation of the narrative is given below. Masur ibn Makama and Abdur Rahman bin Abd Qari report hearing Hazrat Umar saying that I heard Hasham bin Hakim ibn Hazam reciting Surah Furqan during the lifetime of Rasulullah. I heard him reciting and he was reading a lot of such words which Rasulullah had not taught me. I was almost going to attack him during the namaz prayer, but with difficulty I restrained myself till he completed the prayers. Then I squeezed him in his own shawl and asked him, "From whom did you learn this surah which I heard you recite?" He said, "Rasulullah taught it to me." I said, "You are lying because Rasulullah himself taught me it differently from the way in which you were reciting it." Then dragging him, I took him to Rasulullah and said to Rasulullah that I heard him reciting Surah Furqan in such words which you did not teach me. Rasulullah replied, "At least leave him. Hasham, recite." So Hasham recited it in front of Rasulullah the way I had heard him reciting. At this Rasulullah stated, "This is the way it was revealed." And then he said, "Umar, you recite." Answer: I recited it the way Rasulullah had taught me. At this Rasulullah said, "It has also been revealed in this way." And after this the messenger said that this Quran has been revealed on 7 words. Therefore recite it the way it seems easy for you. You will be amazed that Hazrat Umar is from the same Quraysh tribe and is an inhabitant of Makkah. And Hasham is also from the Quraysh tribe and from Makkah. Both have the same language, both have the same dialect and pronunciation. 2 men from the same family and same place recite Surah Furqan with so much difference that Hazrat Umar becomes ready to attack him and restrains himself with difficulty till the end of the prayer. And after the prayer, dragging him squeezed in his own shawl, brings him to Rasulullah. Rasulullah hears the surah from both of them, and hearing it from Hasham says, "Yes, this is the very way it is revealed," and then on hearing it from Hazrat Umar, again declares that yes, it is revealed in this way as well. And then also states that the Quran is revealed on 7 words, recite in whichever way you feel convenient. Based on these narratives, Allama Sayufi was compelled to write the following in Tafsir al-Takan. Many people who quote this, that this means, there are 7 ways of recitation. This is the worst kind of ignorance. Regarding this, the Marshi of Atkan writes, This hadith provides strength to the saying of those people who claim that words means to interpret meanings with synonymous words, even if they are from the same dictionary. Ligat. Because here the vocabulary of Hasham is the dialect of the Quraysh itself and the same dictionary applies to Umar. But despite this there are differences arising in the recitation of both. Ibn Abul Burr has said the same, and most scholars are quoted as saying this is what is meant by 7 words. Have you seen that these differences were not merely of pronunciation and recitation, but rather were based on the use of synonymous words along with their meanings and interpretation? Every individual was at liberty to express the meaning and subject of the Quran in whatever way he wished. 9.18 The Quran is also Riwayat-e-bil Mani. Narration through meanings. One of the biggest objections to attributions was that whatever was being quoted in the narrations were not the words of Rasulullah, but were attributions through meanings, i.e.
Riwayat-e-bil Mani.
This is why it is not known what the messenger had said and how the listener then quoted those words using his own words.
To avoid this objection, the intrigue of the non-Arabs placed the Quran itself right down at this same level, according to which in the time of Rasulullah every individual had the freedom to explain the meanings and subject
of the Quran in whatever words of his own choosing or synonymous words that he wished.
In short, this means according to these attributions, the present Quran was neither compiled by Rasulullah nor did he have it put down in writing.
During the period of the Sahaba, it was written and compiled by either Hazrat Abu Bakr or Hazrat Umar or Hazrat Usman or by Zayd bin Sabit, and it also contained mistakes which remained in it.
In his time Hajjaj ibn Yusuf made corrections in 11 places in it.
The result is obvious that the Quran which we have today is that interpretation of the meaning and subject of the Quran which Hazrat Usman or other Sahaba gave in his own words, and which Hajjaj bin Yusuf corrected. 9.19 The meaning of differences in Qira'at. As has already been written, there are those verses which are included in narrations which were attributed to different Sahaba and noted in the script. This makes it clear what kind of difference this was. Here we will only look at one example. These differences in the verses are called differences of Qira'at.
For example,
when it is said that in the Qira'at of Ibn Abbas it is given in this way, it means that in the version of the script of the Quran which was in the possession of Hazrat Ibn Abbas this verse was noted like this. Regarding the matter of sexual relations between man and woman in the Quran.
Surah Nisa.
After giving details of those relations in which wedlock is prohibited, it is said, except for these, all others are lawful, provided you seek
them in marriage
with gifts from your property, desiring chastity, not lust, seeing that you derive benefit from them, give them the dowers as prescribed. Mahar 4:24. Sunnis call this agreement nikah, which is done permanently after paying mahar and which can end either with death or divorce.
Contrary to this, Shias are inclined towards muta, in which one man and one woman can indulge in sexual relations for an agreed period of time.
And for this the woman is paid for this consensual relation. Among Sunnis muta is haram. The details of this have already been covered in a previous chapter.
After this introduction, let us proceed further.
Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas was a towering Sahabi of the Sunnis.
In his Qira'at
Musahif, the verse noted above is quoted as follows.
You make use of it for a predetermined period of time. That is, according to this Qira'at, the phrase ila ajle musama has been inserted in the verse of the Quran, from which muta receives certification.
Now let us see what Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas states about this addition.
The most trusted tafsir for Sunnis is Tafsir-e-Tabri.
In his tafsir of this verse 4:24, as has been previously noted, he writes, A narration from Abu Nasra is that I asked Ibn Abbas about mutar. He said, "Do you not recite Surah Nisa?" I said, "Why not?" Then he said, "Do you not recite this ayat, Fastamta'atum bihi minhuna ila ilan musama?" I said, "No, if I had been reciting it like this, why would I inquire from you?" He said, "Well, you should know that the actual ayat is as I have recited it." In a narration from Abdul Ali also, a similar incident is attributed to Abu Nasra. In addition, in a third attribution it is quoted from Abu Nasra that I recited this verse in front of Ibn Abbas as Fama astamtatum bihi minhuna.
Ibn Abbas said, Ila ilan masama.
I said, "I do not recite it in that way." 3 times he said, "I swear on Allah, it was revealed in this very way by Allah." This is called the difference of Qira'at i.e. according to the narratives, Hazrat Ibn Abbas and other Sahaba claimed that those verses were revealed in the way that they are noted in their scripts and not the way these are noted in the script of Hazrat Usman. It will be said that the basis of this whole conspiracy is the book Kitab al-Masahif. How is this book accepted as authentic? But the author of Kitab al-Masahif has written nothing of his own in it. He collected all the narrations related to differences in Qira'at from the books of Hadeeth and compiled these in one place in this book. And these books of Hadeeth are those which are accepted as authentic among us Muslims. And the biggest certification of all is that our religious scholars are convinced of these differences in Qira'at. Hence you must have seen that it is frequently written in their tafsirs. Expositions. That, for example, it has been quoted in this way in the Qira'at of Hazrat Ibn Abbas. We will quote one example here. Everyone knows that the Sunnis wash their feet during ablutions while Shias perform masa on their feet. An individual inquired of Maulana Maududi as to which of the two methods is in accordance with the Quran.
In response to this, Maulana Maududi first quoted the verse of the Quran. Tarjuman ul-Quran, February 1959.
Wash your faces and your hands and your arms up to elbows and pass your wet hands lightly over your heads and wash your feet up to ankles. 5. 6. After this, he wrote. In this the word wa arjul kum has 2 qira'ats reported as mutawatir. Continuous. Nafi, Ibn Yamar, Hifs, Kaseh, and Yaqub's qira'at wa arjulakum.
Ba Fatah, Lam.
And Ibn Kasir, Hamza, Abu Amro and Asim's qira'at wa arjulikum.
Ba Kasr, Lam. None among these qira'ats has the status that scholars later on sat down and put vowels on them according to their own judgment and understanding.
Both these qira'ats have been reported on a continuous basis. Now if the first qira'at is accepted, then wa arjulakum relates to faksilu, which means to wash your feet up to the ankles. And if the second qira'at is accepted, then it relates to wamsahu bi rusikum, and the meaning derived from this is to perform masa on the feet up to the ankles. This is the clear difference which has been caused in this verse because of 2 known and famous differently reported mutawatir qira'ats. To remove this contradiction, one way is this, that both qira'ats should be consigned to one of these meanings. Washing or masa alone. But all the efforts which were made have not pointed us to a definite consensus because all the arguments which can be used for ghusl, wash, can nearly all be used for masa as well. The second possibility is that preference could be given to one interpretation alone merely based on the grammar of the language. But this option does not serve the purpose because the arguments used in both cases are nearly equal. In the end, what else can be done except to look at the actions of Rasulullah and the Sahaba?
After this he wrote, what more trustworthy way than this is there to understand when something is not clear from the words of the Quran? Leaving this aside, the fact is that Shias do masa using this same, trustworthy source, while Sunnis proclaim that using this same, trustworthy source, they wash their feet.
Maulana Maududi says that both qira'ats of the Quranic verse are reported continuously and they are so authentic that neither of them can be rejected. This clearly means,
according to Maulana Maududi's declaration,
that this verse of the Quran was revealed in both forms. And the difference between both is so important that according to one qira'at the direction is to wash the feet and according to the second qira'at to do masa on the feet. And in this way, this matter is not made clear from the words of the Quran.
Just think after this what view is formed about the Quran, and the assertion we present to the world with full surety and conviction that not a word or full stop has been changed in this book.
What remains of the status of such a claim? And after this consider what impression or view is formed about Allah, the one who has revealed this book and who sends down contradictory commands. And if Allah had revealed this verse only in one form, i.e., with fatha on lam, or kasra on lam, the next image which presents itself is that Rasulullah,
Allah forbid,
told some people lam with fatha and others he told lam with kasra. In this scenario, think what sort of impression comes to mind about the Messenger of Allah.
Allah forbid.
And even if this is not correct, then tell us how did these two qira'ats come into existence? A little further on Maulana Maududi states, if we look at it from the point of view of intellect, then washing the feet appears to be more reasonable and appears to be closer to the will of the Quran, i.e.,
the verse with fatha.
But after this he did not state what will happen to the qira'at in which lam has a kasra, which is similarly mutawatir and authentic as the qira'at with lam with fatha. This is what is called difference in qira'at, for which support and authenticity is obtained from hundreds of narratives, and which continues to be accepted among us as mutawatir belief.
9.20 Search Your Hearts.
Kitab al-Masahif is a book spread over 195 pages, and it is not possible for us to copy the whole book here. If anyone is interested, he should refer to the great wealth of attributions in this book.
But we would like to appeal to those of our readers who have Iman.
And if there is the light of even a tiny flame in their hearts of respect for the Quran, we would like to ask only this question, that having read the excerpts presented above, they should search their hearts and tell us what impression they form about the Quran. Is it possible, after having read these details about such a book, that it can be called the book from Allah? And can this claim be made about it, that its every word is from Allah and it is preserved till the present? And that this is the very same book that was revealed from Allah and that Rasulullah passed to the Ummah from Allah? Please think and reflect with a cool heart and then tell us what difference, if any, is left between the Quran, the Torah and the Bible. The greatest objection to the Torah, Bible and other revealed books of other religions is that it cannot be said with certainty that these are word for word the same which were passed to the people of these religions by their messengers. You have seen how these narratives have brought the Quran to the same level where the books of other religions were. See how this conspiracy of non-Arabs, Ajam, succeeded. Hence, non-Muslim critics in view of these narratives challenge us and say, tell us how in the light of these attributions you can prove the claim of the integrity of the Quran. Do you know how this same book, Kitab al-Masahif, which is referred to earlier, was published? There is a critic called Arthur Jeffrey, and what he did was to compile all the differences which are quoted in the books of Hadeeth into one place and publish them. This book is called Materials for the History of the Text of the Quran. At the same time, with the aim of avoiding being labeled as a non-Muslim Christian who has collected this unauthentic information, he has printed the book Kitab al-Masahif by Imam Ibn Abi Dawud, in which all those ahadith are present which provide credence to these differences. And in this way he has shown the whole world the true face of this book, about which the Muslims claim that Allah himself has taken responsibility for its preservation. These are those conspiracies of the Ajam based on which they have themselves made this idea commonplace about how is this a protected book. The impact of these conspiracies is that when it is said today that if Hadeeth were an immutable part of Deen,
then Rasulullah should have given them to the Ummah in the same protected state as the Quran. The reply from our conservative sect is that
Allah forbid. When was the Quran in a protected state, that you raise such objections against Hadeeth? Today the state of a Muslim is such that he himself declares that even the Quran did not reach the Ummah in a protected form. Have you seen how deep this conspiracy of the
Ajam was and how far-reaching was its impact?
The consequence of this is that the orthodox faction of our society, which is the custodian of these narratives, is declared the guardian of Deen and protector of Sharia. And the individual who warns, fear Allah and do not attribute such anti-Islam narratives to Allah, is called a non-believer, a renegade and all sorts of other names.
And the consequence of this is that things have reached such a state that demands are being made from Muslims,
not from non-Muslims, that we should prove that the Quran is actually a protected book.
And this demand is made in such a way as if they themselves have no relation or connection to the Quran.
The relation to the Quran is only with us, and so the responsibility is ours alone to prove that the Quran is a protected book. When the situation has deteriorated to such an extent, then you tell us where should the protector of Allah's verses go?
It is not at all difficult for us to prove that the Quran which we have today was given to us written and compiled in the same sequence by Rasulullah. Moreover, there has been no change in a word of it to date, nor could such a thing ever be possible.
We can prove this claim from the Quran itself, from the evidence of history, and even from the evidence of non-Muslim historians and authors. But since this is a separate topic, it is therefore not being presented here for discussion. At this time the aim is only to see what type of narratives are present in our books of Hadeeth about the Quran itself.